Warning, we are about to spoil A Fistful of Dollars. If you haven't seen the movie and plan on watching it, leave now and come back later. But if you have seen it, or you just don't care, then please stick around.
I saved the town by killing all the bad guys.
There's only 2 of us left!
All of the bad guys.
I was going with the wheel spin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinema Roulette. This is going to be a very interesting episode because I don't think there's much that Justin has to say in it, and Cameron is in a very strange mindset, so I don't know if my ramblings will actually be structured or completely incoherent.
Cameron is also speaking in the third and first person.
Just alternating.
Well, that's fun.
Yes, it's very fun, in fact, so... because I'm just at a point where I just don't care. So, isn't that right? Other me, yes, other me. Okay.
Yes, other Barry.
So, yes, today we are starting a new trilogy on the wheel.
Yojimbo!
It's basically Yojimbo. It's A Fistful of Dollars, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yeah, we did. I gotta say, you have to at this point. It's just not optional. You can't just keep talking after you say the title or anything like that.
No, we have to pause for the editor.
Yes. I think that's why we pause, because we're both editors and both in our heads we're like, okay, pause at this point to make it easy for us.
Well, yeah, but then we pause for for 10 seconds too long.
Yeah, I know. It's always just like this silence before we're like, and then we went silent. Great.
Yeah, it is honestly a long silence.
Yeah. When did we start realizing this? I think it was when I was over last summer or something like that.
Yeah, it's the last time we recorded in person at my place.
Yes, that was when we started to realize and actively make fun of the silence we had.
Yeah, I think it was first movie month when we started pointing out. Which, by the way, this movie month will be in November, so that's cool.
Just so all you beautiful people know, we don't really have a collective term for our fans, just glad you're here.
Gamblers?
Gamblers?
Come on, gamblers, let's keep gambling. So, ramblers. Anyway, we have a movie to talk about, apparently.
Yes, this is our first Sergio Leone movie, a director which I am very fond of because I love spaghetti westerns, and he is the one that introduced me to spaghetti westerns. And why not start with one of the people that's considered the best? For those of you who don't know somehow who Sergio Leone is, there's probably actually more than I would think, because, you know, us being film people, we think, oh yes, Sergio Leone, common knowledge, whatever. But he was an Italian director in the 60s, like mid to late 60s and 70s. I think his last film was in like the early 80s or something. And he's most famous for spaghetti westerns. They called them that. I'm sure everyone knows this, but because they were made in Italy, they dubbed them spaghetti westerns. So, you know.
Because us Americans are very smart and don't play the stereotypes ever.
Yeah, but he's most well known for westerns, mostly because literally every movie he made ever was a western except for 2 of them.
What were the other two, out of curiosity?
The one was one. I think it was his technical debut. It was something called the Colossus of Rhodes. It was about the big Rome Colossus at Rhodes or whatever, and it was something of a subgenre in the '60s in Italy called "quote unquote" sword and sandal epics, which were really popular at the time. So there's a lot of Italian ancient epic movies from that time period because it was just a big thing to do. There's a lot of Hercules movies that were made in Italy, stuff like that. And then actually, I think it was his first and his last movie. And then the last movie he made, which is Once Upon a Time in America, a gangster movie set in, obviously the 30s. One which that and the Colossus of Rhodes are the only two of Sergio Leone's I think I haven't seen. Colossus of Rhodes just because of unavailability here in the U.S. And Once Upon a Time in America because it's 4 fucking hours long.
Why do we keep thinking gangster movies have to be 4 hours? Oh, right, The Godfather.
Yes, The Godfather happened. So Sergio Leone came in here and was like, why don't I just make a movie twice as long, nearly, as the first Godfather? I think the current restoration is a little over 4 fucking hours. So I'm just like, yeah, no. I've heard it's really good, but that's...
The only 4-hour movie I need is Love Exposure. Everything else can fuck off.
That was so surprising, and I was so... well done, frankly.
I want to do an episode on it, but that means we have to take out like a sixth of our day.
Yeah, and we don't really want to do that. So I think we covered it well enough in the top 10 episode.
No, we didn't. There is so much to talk about in that movie.
There really is. Fuck. We'll worry about that at a later time. Today we're focusing on Sergio. So...
with a fistful of dollars because we're doing the Man with No Name trilogy.
The Man with No Name trilogy. This was the first movie, which was I'd be hard pressed to even call it a loose adaptation of Yojimbo. It is very, very, very similar to Yojimbo in almost every aspect. Like, it's not like a carbon copy. Like, it's not technically shot for shot, but there are a lot of sequences where it is essentially shot for shot. They're just using swords instead of guns. And it's basically
the meme of, hey, can I copy off you? Sure, yes. Just don't make it obvious.
Yep, that's exactly it. That's a very apt comparison. So yeah, and it hits essentially the same story beats as Yojimbo. And once we watch Yojimbo, that one I'm excited for because it will be very obvious just how much this movie copies from it. But that does not take away from the movie's own merits, I should say. So
Yojimbo's on the director's wheel, which we're starting soon after the next movie.
Yay! So
that will be cool.
Yes, I will let Justin over here take it away with the synopsis.
Okay.
It's not going to take long.
It shouldn't take long. Sorry if this gets confusing, because it's a lot of back and forth and backstabbing. Mm-hmm. But the Man with No Name, who I will call Clint for this trilogy because I am lazy. Clint pulls into a troubled town. This town is it in Mexico?
I don't know if it's ever specified. I think it's kind of implied to be in Mexico.
No, yeah, because when he saves the people, he's like, get across the border.
Yes, so it is like a Mexican border town, essentially.
Okay, he's in a Mexican border town, and this is a town of killing. Basically, you either die here or you join one of the gangs. There is no in between. Mm-hmm. And the gang, there are 2 gangs, the Rojos and the Baxters. Clint is told, he asks, like, who's the strongest? The Rojos are the strongest. So he shoots a couple of the Baxters and goes work for the Rojos. But then he leaves the Rojos. I'm serious. This is like within 10 minutes. He goes in, hears basically that they don't really want him there, but they're just afraid of him. He leaves, kind of just stays as neutral party in town, wanting to get rid of the gangs because the gangs seem like dicks. He watches as the army comes through town transporting something in a stagecoach. It's gold. The Rojos go and steal the gold and bring it back, now wanting to make peace because they know for a fact that armies from both America and Mexico are going to come up and be like, yo, where the fuck's the gold? And they want the town to be peaceful, so they are just like, oh, that's a peaceful town, nothing happens there. But Clint doesn't want that. So through some trickery, a hostage trade or two, He gets the Rojos to kill all the Baxters. He is caught trying to steal, gets tortured, escapes. That's when the Baxter massacre happens. He goes and prepares, fights the Rojos. Everyone's dead except for 2 people in town. End of movie.
Yeah, in the opening joke, we weren't kidding when there's literally just 2 people left in town.
We don't see anyone else.
No.
I guess there is another plot point of like this woman who was kidnapped by the Rojos, and she was like kind of forced to be married to the head honcho there.
Yeah,
but Clint saves her. Clint saved her and allowed her and her real husband and kid to escape across the border, which is why he gets caught and tortured. But then everything else happens. So, Cameron,
I'm still here.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was done.
We're doing the thing again. Okay. Yeah, so that's it. That's basically a synopsis of the whole movie. Very, very simple setup. Well, let's see. I'm trying to think of where to start here, how to get my thoughts gathered. I'm doing better than I thought I would, I must say. So yeah. I'm gonna start with just the performances. Clint Eastwood is fantastic in this movie.
Clint Eastwood is cool.
Yeah, it's a really young Clint Eastwood in the mid 60s or whatnot, or maybe early 60s. What year was this made? I probably should have looked that up beforehand.
Oh, damn it. We looked it up, too, while we were watching. I think it was 64.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking 64 for some reason, too. We were right. It was 1964.
Cool.
Made in 1964, so a very, very young Clint Eastwood. And I know there's an interesting behind-the-scenes tidbit that Sergio Leone was very blown away by the young actor's professionalism. And I forget if this was on the set of this movie or if it was on the set of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but there were times when Clint Eastwood would like improvise lines or whatever, and he'd like say certain things or improvise certain facial expressions or something, and Sergio Leone would have a person on set kind of transcribing all that. And he was surprised when Clint Eastwood came up to him after a day of shooting one time, and he had already transcribed the notes or whatever for Sergio Leone, and basically went, "Here you go." And he's like, "Wow, this dude's professional."
Whoa, is he right behind his fucking back?
Yeah. I don't know. He just wrote down all the stuff he improvised on the script just to make it easier on the editing, because he kind of knew some of the behind the scenes stuff, I guess. So that's neato. So yeah, all of the acting is good. He's really good. The bad guys are properly bad. Who did you say most of them looked like?
Oh, fuck. What did I say?
I forget. It was great.
Damn it.
Like schoolyard bullies.
Right
schoolyard bullies or something.
Oh, yeah. They all looked like schoolyard bullies from movies that were basically remembering the 60s. So later.
Yeah. All of the bad guys looked like that. So yeah, they were all people you just wanted to punch in the face.
Fucking Texan greasers, basically.
Fucking right. They really were. You gotta love the old man who's the funeral director. He's kind of great.
Yeah, he's fun.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is true for all of
Sergio Leone.
You
can words. I believe in you.
Sergey Leone?
Sergio
Leone. Mamma mia, this name is on. Oh my fucking god, Justin! Are we allowed to have that joke? I don't know.
Fucking hate you. Oh my fucking god. I mean, I know we called them spaghetti westerns, but Jesus Christ. Way to play into the stereotypes. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay.
Anyway.
Moving on.
What I was going to say is most of his movies, I'm pretty sure this is true, where they didn't record any sound on set. They instead ADR'd most of it.
Correct. Most of the dialogue, no, pretty much all of the dialogue was ADR'd, and obviously Clint Eastwood did his own voice, so that's cool.
Yeah, which he allowed people on set to speak in their own tongue, so that way they looked more natural.
Yeah, so that way
that makes the performances even more impressive. in a way.
It really does, because they all do a really good job. And the ADR, while there was quite a few noticeable instances where the mouths didn't match, is for the most part done pretty well for people who are probably just speaking fluent Italian.
Yeah, honestly.
So, yeah, and whoever they got to do the ADR voice work also did really solid jobs dubbing everybody. So,
I also find it weird watching older movies because we don't do all the Foley sounds that we do nowadays. So there's like in the opening, the man with no name is drinking from a well, and there's no like slurping sound or anything, which is just odd to see.
yeah, and I think he kind of played with that with just the style in general, just because the way he used music over just the imagery, because for the time was just heavily stylized. I guess that's a good segue if there's anything you don't have to say about the acting or the ADR.
No, just the characters do a very good job.
Everyone does a great job. So, and it comes across, like you said, very naturalistic as the way it was shot. But yeah, just this whole trilogy and just Sergio Leone movies in general just kind of ooze a style, really. Like, for the time period, these were just heavily stylized, and I just think that's why like everybody really liked them. So just the cinematography, there's a lot of like really fast cuts in the action, a lot of close-ups on faces, and then long shots and stuff like that. Something that like Kurosawa kind of, pioneered, and obviously Leone was heavily inspired by that for this movie. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
well, you will when we watch Yojimbo.
It's true.
So
I more said that because I realized we could do a visual joke, but visual jokes don't work for audio podcasts.
yeah. I'll run that by you after the episode if I remember it. So yeah.
You won't.
Yeah, gosh darn it. Well, now it's a challenge, and I will. I swear. So anyway, the cinematography.
Oh yeah, cinematography is good. Is really good too.
Yeah, and of course, just because when you think of Sergio Leone westerns and just westerns like this in general, like when you think of just like western imagery and just like stuff you associate with westerns, these movies like kind of set the bar for that. Because Red Dead Redemption basically was just a spaghetti western video game, and it was just awesome. So yeah, but I love the cinematography in this, and of course the music by Ennio Morricone is timeless. He is one of the most prolific early Western composers, especially when spaghetti westerns and he was also another person that set the bar when it comes to the music, because that's what most spaghetti westerns sound like. So
yeah, this sets the tone for what music you think of when you think of westerns.
Yeah. And it's great. And of course, that opening sequence is classic. I love how it's animated and stylized. So,
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, The Good and the Bad and the Ugly. That one has by far the best one. Oh, it's so good, so iconic. I can't wait to get to that. So, but yeah, we're not.
Well, you have to, because we won't get to it for like 3 years.
Yeah, probably. So. Yeah, but just the music and the cinematography and just the style in general of the movie is great. And it's probably why it sticks out in so many people's minds. It's a movie that really, you don't really think of the plot or the characters so much. It's just a movie where you think of, I think of it and I just think of just the style. Honestly, I know I'm saying that word a lot and it's getting redundant now, but that's what I think of when I think of Sergio Leone and spaghetti westerns. Anything to add?
I don't have anything to add.
I know you don't, and that's why I'm still talking. We joked beforehand that this is probably going to be more of a Cameron solo episode, so because I know a lot more about Sergio Leone than he does.
Okay, before we go on, I think I should just say,
yeah,
because this movie is good. It's a very solid. There's a reason it's a classic. But the thing is, with a plot so simple, no real morals to be talked about here. There's no underlying themes. It's very much a movie where you just sit back and enjoy yourself, which is really hard to talk about for a podcast.
Yeah. As we were realizing, there isn't much to say on it except, I have just my little crash course on an introduction to Sergio Leone, which is why I'm even more worried about the next one, because I've kind of exhausted that now.
Worst comes to worst, we could always go to the bar.
Yeah, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
But yeah, it's a weird thing when it comes to good. I'm trying to think of how to words this properly. it feels weird to call a movie good when you can't say much besides it's good. It's well done.
Yeah. It's deserving of its classic status mostly, but yeah, it's a really good movie. It's not horrible, it's not amazing, but it's just really good, really solid.
I sat through it. It didn't drag. I was entertained.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of want when I see a movie at the bare minimum.
And I think it helps it's only what, an hour and a half?
I think it's 100 minutes. So, hour 40.
Oh, so close. An hour 39.
Rounding.
But you can't round if that minute doesn't exist.
Sure you can.
You just did. Oh, fuck. And I know this was a movie that you said that you felt, wasn't entirely deserving of, classic status, but it was still really solidly done and worth a checkout, yeah?
Yeah, I think I've been over this before about how I rate quote-unquote classic movies. Because there are some where it's like, oh my god, this is a classic. This is a movie you need to see before you die. And then you watch it, it's like, yeah, that was fine. We've done better due to time and technology, we've done this better. So it's just kind of been surpassed.
Mm-hmm.
There's stuff like that. There's stuff that holds up super fucking well. My personal go-to example is 12 Angry Men. That movie holds up amazingly, and it's literally just 12 people in a room.
Hell yeah.
And sadly, some of the talking points still will matter. But
wow, and that was made in what, like the mid-50s?
Yeah.
It's like it's like, is that almost 70 years old at this point? Past that, maybe?
Well, it depends on if you count when the movie came out or the original air date of 12 Angry Men.
Oh, yeah, because it was a TV show beforehand, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a live TV special, which only had 2 mistakes in it, which is interesting.
Yeah, and that's also included in the Criterion Blu-ray, so.
Nice. A lot is cut from the TV version, obviously, because it's only an hour.
Yeah.
But A Fistful of Dollars is like solidly in the middle. It's an enjoyable film if you sit down and watch it. But there's not going to be anything. There's not like any mind-blowing action scenes or mind-blowing character moments. It's just it's solid.
Yeah, I mean there are several badass moments by Clint Eastwood. So
yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing like huge or exciting or anything to write home about. It's just, it's a lot of the action, especially like the stuff in the graveyard, is kind of standard Western fare, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I like the opening joke of when he shoots the 4 guys before he's like, get 3 coffins ready.
Yes.
Kills 4 guys, walks back and just goes, sorry, 4.
Yeah, my mistake, 4. It's great. Yeah, and the humor from Clint Eastwood's great, so because he has a lot of snarky remarks like that.
Yeah, they're snarky and they don't break the tone. So
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think that's really all I have to say on it. It's still just it's basically the best introduction to Sergio Leone movies and just the spaghetti western genre in general. I would say it's just a really good starting point if you're really trying to get into that.
Again, sorry for this being such a short episode. Yeah. This is just sort of it's good scenario.
I would definitely give it like a 7 out of 10. So,
yeah, if you need to get into westerns, it's a solid start. It's not too slow at any point. It gets the tone down. It has the music. It has the fun one-liners, and it's at least more morally complex than just a. I know it is more morally complex than westerns before, where it was just white hat, black hat.
Yeah, and that was something that was kind of like played upon in a lot of spaghetti westerns. I can go on a little bit about that because, like you said, classic westerns, good guy wore black hat or good guy wore white hat and bad guy wore black hat, just kind of how it was. It was just kind of this cliche that existed. And I forget which one it was, but they deliberately went out of their way to like dress them in black or something, like the main Django, I think it was.
Oh. Nice.
Like he's dressed in basically all black for the movie just to kind of tear down that stereotype or whatever. But that was the thing that separated spaghetti westerns from a lot of just, quote unquote American westerns. is that American Westerns, it was very much good guys, bad guys, cowboys, Indians. It was very, as you put it, black and white, where it stood morally. But the word you were looking for is a lot of spaghetti Westerns were a lot more morally ambiguous.
Yeah.
And they, you know, kind of drew the line where it's like you have the protagonist here that you're following around, but is he really the good guy? And it kind of raised some of these questions. It was a lot more, not only was it a lot more morally ambiguous than it, spaghetti Westerns were also notably more violent than American Westerns at the time. Like, they weren't afraid to show
pain.
Yeah, they weren't afraid to, like, show blood and gore and dead bodies and shit when they needed to. So... It was kind of this whole deconstruction of the American Western where it's like, yeah, not everything was black and white. Not everything was really pretty. People fucking died in terrible ways. Here's just bloody strewn corpses that just got crushed by a fucking barrel.
But we're still not going to talk about the racism.
Yeah, that wouldn't be until Django. Django had heavy themes of racism.
And Blazing Saddles, which just killed the white and black hat genre.
It did. Yeah, and kind of honestly, good riddance to that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because when it came to the portrayal of, you know, Native Americans and Mexicans in a lot of American Westerns, my God, were we behind the fucking times in that. Jesus Christ, it's cringeworthy nowadays.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that's there back then. I'm not going to go into detail, but just saying, just we not exactly a shining example of, you know, progressiveness.
Also, speaking of the moral ambiguity, that kind of goes back to the main character with Clint, because there is a moment where if he walks away, this town will be at peace for at least a few weeks.
Yep.
He could have 100% just put up his hands and gone off elsewhere, but instead just decides, let's get everyone killed.
Yeah. It's like, all right, time to pit these fuckers against each other. I'm going to save the town.
And now the coffin maker, the canteen owner can live.
Good. Great. Well, no, he technically saved the one family, too. They ran off past the border. So.
Oh, true. Okay, but they're not in town. So.
No, so literally it's just the bar owner.
And even then, the military is still coming, and they may tear the town apart. They bring that up.
Yes. It's funny, and I won't say what that's like because that's spoilers for another episode of Cinema Roulette. So,
which episode?
Shh.
Because we're in the future. We've done episodes.
Okay. But yeah, again, I think that's all we can really milk out of this, and feel like we're not rambling or wasting your time.
Rambling.
Insert Led Zeppelin obligatory joke right here. Good job. I'm not going to do it in the episode. That's just going to be left as is, just me saying insert joke here. So,
alrighty.
But yeah.
So we're on our last spin of the series wheel before we got into the director's wheel.
Should we tell them or just not?
Well, I mean, we brought it up before, but hold on. Let's see what happens when we spin.
We're going to spin this, and I'm actually very excited to see what happens.
Okay, so let us
spin.
It almost did. It almost did it.
Okay.
It actually landed on Man with No Name again. However, we're cheating.
Yeah, it's James Bond. Dr. No.
We're doing James Bond. We've said this before, but in case you're new, this is your first episode. First off, I'm sorry. Go listen to our other stuff.
Yes.
We talk usually with a lot more passion.
This episode was fine, so it wasn't a bad episode, thankfully. But it's not the shining example.
This episode's fine. It's just that this movie has not much to talk about. We're sorry.
Yeah. It's not up to our usual standards of bonkerness or passionate. So, because we are very passionate people.
Especially about film. That's why we want to make them. But anyway, let me actually fucking talk, Cameron.
No. Okay.
But we've said this in past episodes as we were doing this section of 8 films. James Bond is the longest series on this wheel. We have not landed on it once, even though we've spinned it over 16 times, which is how many series were on the wheel. So we're just going to do Dr. No next because we need to get started on James Bond just so it's not stuck there forever.
And man, I'm so glad that it's not like one of us will have so much to fucking say on just this one movie.
Too bad none of us are fans of James Bond. We honestly hate the series. Our favorite film from the series is
don't say it! No, don't say it! No, can't. And it's illegal. It's illegal.
The best game was Rogue Agent, probably.
No, and that's the worst example. If you wanted to use a bad example for the joke, it would have been 007 Legends. Thank you very much.
007's Legend is actually the best. Or James Bond Kart on the GBA.
I actually liked the GBA game. I thought it was pretty good.
Cameron is just consistently wrong.
Excuse me.
I'm mostly just talking so we could do the joke from the movie.
Excuse me. I really like the GBA game, actually, and you can be quiet.
It's okay to be wrong.
How is it wrong? Did you ever play the GBA game?
I owned a Game Boy.
You owned a Game Boy, and do you own that game?
I don't own any Game Boy games anymore.
But I'm saying you did at one point, and so what you're saying...
Cameron, just enter the fucking joke already from the movie.
I'm not entering the joke.